You're listening to The Arts Report on YouTube.
Hi, I'm Nick Sartore for The Arts Report on CiTR 101.9 FM in Vancouver. 30 Live is Vancouver's most popular independent music series. We've talked about it a lot here on The Arts Report on CiTR. With weekly concerts on Thursdays at the Forum on Granville Street, the next one is coming up this coming Thursday, the series has grown to include more venues, more musicians, and of course, more music fans. 30 Live recently collaborated with the team behind UBC's hugely popular Lip Dub video. Check it out on YouTube if you haven't already. They had their official video launch at Robson Square 2 weeks ago. The 30 Live group, which is managed by partners Dan Tanner, Tamir Schlanger, and Leon Feldman, presented an incredible lineup of live music acts, including Panther and the Superfly Band, as well as Free City Collective. After the concert, Dan Tanner from the 30 Live group posted a video on Facebook where he called out the City of Vancouver and their Parks Board for making it difficult for music promoters to showcase local talent in an outdoor setting like Robson Square. I caught up with Dan a few days ago, and I wanted to hear his candid thoughts and ask him about what local music fans can do to advocate for more independent music in Vancouver. You posted a video on Facebook, and I want to start with the first thing that I noticed before I even had a chance to click through to the video and watch it. You had a caption on the video that read, "I love Happy Planet," with an exclamation mark, and I'm wondering what you meant by that caption.
Well, Happy Planet is a wholesome and nutritious brand of juice that's produced, I think, either just outside Vancouver or in Vancouver in BC, and is it a part shareholder or the owner is Gregor Robertson, the mayor of Vancouver.
Mayor of Vancouver, sure, yeah.
Professed musician and lover of the arts.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of like. It was more a sarcastic quote towards him on one hand, and maybe an endorsement in the other. I thought if I could support his company, Happy Planet, maybe he could support Vancouver music a bit more. I
see, and of course that's once I hit play on the video and started watching, I could see quite clearly. You were talking about the Robson Square show, where 30 Live put together a bunch of bands that played at the video launch for the UBC Lip Dub video. And one of the things that you mentioned right off the top was the great energy in the crowd. So clearly, you're suggesting that Vancouver music fans are supportive of Vancouver music. So is that an accurate call, I guess, from what you saw at that show? Completely.
Kids, they seem to have this preconception that live public music means drunkenness and means drug taking and means kids misbehaving and throwing up in the corners and stuff. And it's not. We did this show at Robson Square. It's very high energy. Kids of all ages there and families there, things like that. It was probably around 400 or 500 people. There were 2 police officers, casually sauntering around with a coffee, just keeping. That's not a negative comment. Like the reason was they were casually walking around. There was no need for them to be on their guard. They were just making sure that with a crowd that size, everyone was safe and everything was cool, and they had no need to even bat an eyelid, Mm-hmm. And they just, like I say, it seems to be this preconception that if they give people an inch in this city, they're going to run riot like pagans and smash the city up at the drop of a guitar note, Yeah. And Friday's show was a great example of the fact that public displays of music can happen without any of the negativity that they profess to take place from a live performance.
Yeah, no kidding. And you continued on, and I'm quoting now from what you said in the video. You said, quote, "Positive energy is being ignored." And I'm wondering if you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, they seem to be, whenever I speak to anyone at the city, they just say, well, bylaws are in place, and we don't want complaints from people over sound with condos, and, we have responsibility to everyone's safety. Like, well, I don't really know what they mean by that, because musicians are the most placid, creative, and peaceful people in society. So I don't know how music could make people erupt into violence. And it just seems that within this city. Now, the things I'm going to say, I agree that the people who are having a hard time in society should be thoroughly looked after and should be and there should be a lot of care gone into them and a lot of funding gone into their rehabilitation and things like that. But this city is run on the premise that of the two naughty kids at the back of the classroom. And by that I mean that if there's two kids that are misbehaving in a class of 30, those are the two kids that are looked after, and they ignore the other 28 in the class who are behaving well and want to learn and want to pass their exams. In this city, we've got two kids in the back of the classroom who are publicly drinking and taking drugs and causing antisocial problems in the city. And so the city put all their energies into them, and they forget the 28 kids that just want to play music and enjoy the surrounds and enjoy the countryside and enjoy the parks, and they pay very little attention to them. If anything, the legislation they put in place for the two people, it gets covered. It gets covers everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I guess you mentioned condo owners again right now, and you mentioned it, the condo owners, a few times in the video as well. And one of the things that you said was, quote, some venues, and what you were suggesting was that some venues close to music halls or some condos rather, close to music halls, have been there for 100 years. So that basically suggesting that some of those venues are established venues that have been in Vancouver for a long time and are known as music venues. And you were basically suggesting that condo owners should realize, I suppose, that those venues are there. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, condo owners in that context in Vancouver?
Oh, it absolutely defies logic and belief. When these people buy these $500,000 boxes, 1,000 square foot boxes, overlooking places like the Biltmore Cabaret and the Cobalt that's actually been there for this year 100 years, and then at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning, people are piling out of there. There's noise coming out of the door, and they complain. Well, why would you buy? If you buy a house next to a motorway or a highway, do you live there a month and then complain that the cars are keeping you awake at night? And then do they put legislation in place on the motorway and eventually shut the motorway down? No, they don't. It's just common sense. It just seems to be that everyone pays tax in this city, but the only people they listen to are the people that buy $500,000 condos. These kids that play music, their parents live in the suburbs and they've lived here for generations. And they're the ones that have actually funded the entire regeneration of this new city. So I just think there's a balance in care for general people in this city.
Interesting.
A misbalance. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. And you ended the video by saying, quote, remember the first, it was sort of a call, and you said, quote, remember the first record you bought as a kid, or the first show you ever went to, and the feelings that came into you as you saw that first show. So that was sort of a call to action to, I suppose, the politicians and council members of City of Vancouver. So what would you like to see happen from here?
I'd like them to take an interest in music and culture in this city. I mean, they wrap a lot up in these nice websites, nice packages. So we're doing this for arts and culture. We're doing this for this, but they're not. They make it as hard as they can for ordinary kids to perform public music. I mean, I'm 30 years old and a pretty well organised guy. I'm going through the process at the moment of trying to set up some shows in Stanley Park. And so I've had to fill out the forms. I've got to go to committees. I've got to convince people. Is a group of 17-year-old boys that play room-friendly music, are they going to go through the process of doing all this so they can play to their friends in the park? Well, no, they're not, because they don't understand how to do the paperwork, and they don't necessarily have the belief that they can do it at such a young age with all the hoops they made to jump through. And I don't know. It's just. They take the passion out of the things that people are trying to do by wrapping it up in so much paperwork and wrapping it up in so much policy. They talk about policy a lot, policies. But well, that's great. I understand that people need to be safe, but take it on a case by case. Just think. Say, well, you know what? We've got a few $1,000s. Why don't we go into the community? Why don't we find a few musicians? And why don't we put on a city-funded music festival in Stanley Park? And why don't we invite people down? Why don't we contact local promoters? Why don't we work with the venues? Why don't we do something? The only thing they do so far is they've got the Malcolm Bowl, which is a commercial site. that does shows in Stanley Park. It's so difficult for ordinary taxpayers just to present themselves musically in this city.
I also chatted with Tamir Schlanger, who's another one of the partners in the 30 Live group. I asked him to elaborate on his experience presenting music in Vancouver.
I think that the fact that you can just make a Facebook video and gain, and now we're on the radio talking about it, is unbelievable, because everybody has had this issue forever. Like, it's always been this way, that Vancouver is known, has been called No Fun City since ever. I've been playing shows since I was 14 and have never had an easy time doing anything musical in the city. And everyone complains about it, and everyone's like, oh, it sucks, it's so annoying, and no one does anything. So I applaud Dan for, as little as putting a Facebook video up, but he's already caught the attention of radio, caught the attention of, the Parks Board and the city itself, and I think that maybe we're finally on a road to do something, make a change.
And what do you think that music fans, because Dan also suggested this in his video, that and I mean 30 Live has been a clear indication that there's a lot of music fans in Vancouver. So what can music fans who care about the local independent music scene, I guess, what can they do to advocate and show their support?
Mainly just not just sit back and complain about how it is. Come out to shows. We're talking about finding ways to maybe not charge $10 at every show we do, even though that's kind of the going price, just so we can get people out. We've talked about, me and Dan have had numerous conversations about how industry people always get guest lists for every show. So once you've finally made it to the point where you can make money doing what you love, you get to get into everything for free. Where the kids that really want to come out but work for $8 an hour, because we have the lowest minimum wage in Canada as well, can't afford to come to our show. So we decided that, I don't know when this is going to go into effect, but to start putting on 5 to 10 person guest lists on every one of our shows, just for those kids that want to come but can't afford it. And I think that's a way to start doing it. And now I'm left to deal with
Special thanks to Dan Tanner and Tamir Schlanger from the 30 Live group for sharing their thoughts on Vancouver music. You can support them as well as all of the local bands that they present as part of the 30 Live series. You can find them on Facebook, 30:Live Group. You can also find their website at 30livegroup.com. It's not live yet, though it will be live and launched officially on Friday, May the 6th. Remember to save that date and come down to the Forum on Granville Street, 1163 Granville Street between Helmkin and Davie. It's going to be a fantastic party. It's the 30 Live is 30 show, and it features the British Columbians, David Vertesi, Young Pacific, Panther and the Superfly Band, Guilty About Girls, Familia, Bodie Jones, a bunch of fantastic bands, as well as Free City Collective, and you're hearing their latest song right now. It's Indian Arm. You can find them at freecitycollective.com, as well as all the information about all of the bands that are going to be performing at that show on Friday, May the 6th on Facebook. So again, that's 30:Live. Find them on Facebook. Thanks very much for joining us. This has been a special interview as part of the Arts Report here on CiTR 101.9 FM.
Don't miss the Arts Report on CiTR Radio in Vancouver, 101.9 FM. That's Wednesdays at 5 p.m. We're also streaming online at CiTR.ca every Wednesday at 5. And don't miss our podcast, which you can find, at CiTR.ca.